gonna be. My name is Remy Afon. I'm gonna be the moderator for this event. You're all welcome to the webinar, A Day in the Life of a SOC Analyst, powered by Linsec Cybersecurity. Linsec Cybersecurity is a leading cybersecurity consultancy firm that specializes in planning and implementation of cybersecurity solutions in direct support of business and government establishments. We also provide training and certification exam. We are authorized training provider for PECB and EC Council. So let's quickly dive into today's webinar. So the format is, we've got some SOC analysts that are going to tell us about how their day looks like. So I've got like 3 SOC analysts today. Then as we go on, you might want to type 1 or 2 questions if you have any question. Then after the whole presentation, then we can pick those questions and answer them. I've got Asanat Oyiza Abdurrahim, who's a SOC analyst. She has Bachelor of Cybersecurity from Federal University of Technology, Mina, with a second class or per division. She went to University of Malaysia, where she has a master's degree in information security with first class honor. She's currently pursuing a doctorate degree in cybersecurity at FUT Mina. And presently she works with Defense Space Administration in Nigeria. She's a certified ethical hacker and also ISO 27001 lead implementer. She's a member of Women in Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria, Information Security Audit and Control Association, and Internet Society of Nigeria. So without much ado, I'm going to invite Asanat to come and just tell us about SOC. What is SOC? And she'll be able to deep dive into Security Operations Center analyst activities. So Asanat, you can take over the floor now.
Very good morning to you, sir. Good morning, all.
Morning.
I'm Hassanat Oiza Abdurrahim, and today I'll be delivering a presentation on a day in the life of a Security Operations Center analyst. Permit me to share my screen with you.
Yeah, you can go on. Are you able to share it?
Yeah. Yes, I'm trying to do that right now.
All right, okay, cool.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, okay. All right. So I'll be covering the following scope items: a brief introduction into SOC activities, SOC features, threats, intelligence approach. Thereafter, I'll be talking briefly about the cyber Q chain in practice. The Security Operations Center is a facility that houses an information security team responsible for monitoring, detecting, analyzing, and responding to threats on the cyberspace using a combination of technological solutions and strong set of processes. the SOC gives the information security team visibility into networks and ICT infrastructure. And the SOC enables analysts to be able to remediate IT threats across applications, devices, and systems in their public and private cloud environments, as well as physical locations. So the key benefit of a SOC is to continuously monitor and analyze data activity of an organization on an ongoing basis, because it's very important for to maintain business continuity in an organization. And this responsibility is entrusted to the SOC team. There are, the SOC is purposely built and set up to ensure business continuity. And then there is need for skilled manpower, processes, and technologies. These are the SOC features. So I'll be talking briefly on the features, which are people, processes, tools, and then threat intelligence. For the people, a well-trained SOC team would have the right skills and use the least number of resources while gaining visibility into activity and active and emerging threats on the network. So this chart illustrates the team roles and responsibilities for a SOC, and this includes required skill sets for these roles. So as you can see on the chart, these roles include Tier 1 to 4, where Tier 1 is the security analyst role, which is a triad specialist. And the skill set required here is a system admin skill, programming skill, specialist, and certification skills like CISSP, Global Information Assurance Certification, and so on. So the responsibilities expected from a Tier 1 analyst involves reviewing the latest alerts to determine relevancy and urgency. And they also run the vulnerability scan, vulnerability assessment report, and manages and configures security monitoring tools. So these are the responsibilities of a Tier 1 security analyst in the Security Operations Center. For the Tier 2 security analyst, who is an incident responder, usually the skills required are same as the Tier 1, but the responsibility involves reviewing trouble tickets generated by the Tier 1 analyst. Then they utilize the emerging threat intelligence to identify affected system and the scope of the attack. And they determine the direct remediation and recovery efforts to recover from any form of threat or attack. And then for the Tier 3 security analyst, who is a threat hunter, and the skill set required is also the same as the Tier 1 and Tier 2 security analysts, but they require to be familiar with data visualization and pen testing tools. Responsibilities involve reviewing assets, reviewing asset discovery and vulnerability assessment data. And they also explore ways to identify stealthy threats that may have found their way into the organization's network. And then lastly is the Tier 4 security analyst, who is the SOC manager. And the role of this analyst is handling operations and management of the SOC. The skill set required here are the same as the Tier 1 to 3, but they also require strong leadership and communication skills. The responsibility has to do with supervising the activity of the SOC team, recruiting, hiring, training, and assessing the staff, and then managing escalation processes, and then reviewing the incident reports and other management roles. So this explains the team roles and responsibility for a SOC. The next SOC feature here is processes. SOC processes includes a list of things that a SOC team must that a SOC team needs to do so that the organization's assets are protected and high priority threats are detected quickly and with minimal impact. Essentially, SOC team perform SOC processes to detect emerging threats, determine their scope and impact, and respond effectively and quickly. Now, these are the key SOC stages: event classification and triage, which has to do with collecting and correlating correlating and analyzing log data. Then we also have prioritization and analysis, which has to do with reviewing and responding to activities indicating adversary infiltration. The third stage is remediation and recovery, which has to do with containing the damage and preventing future occurrence. And then lastly, assessment and audits, which has to do with running vulnerability scans and generating compliance reports. So these are the stages and that are involved in processes for a SOC. So usually the assessment and audit involves finding and fixing vulnerabilities before an attacker exploits them to gain access to your network. And this also involves verifying policy compliance as well as determining how to improve the SOC team's performance and efficiency. So this brings me to the next feature, which is tools. Essentially, security monitoring tools required in the SOC includes asset discovery, vulnerability assessment, intrusion detection, behavioral monitoring, and security events management system tools or security analytics tools. I'll be pointing out some examples of SOC tools. For the asset discovery tools, we have tools like Akunetics, SolarWinds, Quails. For the vulnerability assessment tools, we have tools like Nessus, Nexpose, Quails. Quails also have capabilities to carry out asset discovery and vulnerability assessment. Then we also have intrusion detection tools, which is a very necessary tool in the SOC, like tools like Snot, SolarWinds. Then the user behavioral tool, that's the UBA, user behavioral monitoring tool, like Splunk, IBM QRadar. And then security information and event management tools like Alien Vault, USM, which is a very popular open source monitoring tool. Then IBM QRadar also, which also have the capability to carry out security information and event management activities. And also the same goes for SolarWinds. So there are many more tools, but these are some common tools used in the SOC. And then the last SOC feature I'm talking about is threat intelligence. Threat intelligence requires setting up a security monitoring tool to receive raw security relevant data, like logging in and logging off events, persistent outbound data transfer, firewall, which allows or that has to do with allowing or denying access to networks. Now, this also includes making sure that your critical cloud and on-premise infrastructure, which is a firewall, database servers, file servers, domain controllers, DNS, email, web, or Active Directory servers are all sending their logs to your log management, log analytics, or SIM. Brings me to the next aspect of threat intelligence, which is threat intelligence approaches. There are various approaches to threat intelligence, such as crowdsourced, proprietary, do-it-yourself. Now, for the crowdsourced, this involves the SOC team collaborating with the cybersecurity community on the latest threats on how to mitigate them. There's a wealth of threat intelligence that has been collected and analyzed. In the case of proprietary approach, vendors such as antivirus vendors, firewall, and IDS vendors offer their own proprietary threat intelligence based on information they collect from their customers and their own threat search terms. And then for the do-it-yourself approach, the DIY approach, which involves writing your own correlation rules or signature to detect specific exploits or attack patterns. So in this case, you can download indicators of compromise from platforms like Alien Vote and other platforms. Based on this, you can manually script correlation rules and apply them against your log data to detect them in your environment. So briefly, I want to discuss a scenario of a SOC analyst activity using the cyber kill chain process. The cyber kill chain process identifies what the adversary must do to must complete in order to achieve their objectives. By looking at environmental behaviors and infrastructure activity from an attacker's perspective, you'll be able to determine which event requires your attention at the moment. So this has to do with looking at the your infrastructure and protecting it from the attacker's perspective. So this chart identifies some alarm types that can be generated by your SOC tool. The first alarm type here is reconnaissance and probing alarm. And this behavior indicates that an actor attempting to discover information, or an actor is attempting to discover information about the organization. The priority level of this alarm type is low, so a SOC analyst has to respond to this alarm by reviewing the activity or events that occurred. So the next alarm type is has to do with delivery and attack, and this behavior indicates an attempted delivery of an exploit. The priority level of this alarm type is low or medium, and then the SOC analyst has to respond to this alarm by reviewing the activity and events that occurred. Then the third alarm type here is the exploitation and installation. This behavior indicates a successful exploit of a vulnerability or backdoor or a remote access Trojan, which is a RAT, being installed on a system. And the priority level of this alarm type is medium or high. So the SOC analyst has to respond to this alarm by verifying and investigating the events and escalate it to the tier 2 analyst. We talked about it, the roles of SOC analyst. Then the fourth alarm type here is the system compromise. This behavior indicates that a system has been compromised, and the priority level of this is high. So the SOC analyst has to respond to this alarm and also verify and investigate, and then escalate it to the tier 2 analyst for further remediation actions. All of these findings must be documented. A SOC analyst has to document the stages of investigation to identify which assets has been examined and which events is a false positive, and so on. So this brings me to the end of this. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Asanat. That's quite intense.
Thank you, sir.
Actually gave us SOC definition, the futures, and also introduce us to different levels of SOC analysts, where we have level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And she was able to demonstrate show us some of the tools, and also cyber kill chain. Yeah, the presentation is going to be available. We're going to email it to all participants. But if you have any question, you can drop it in the Q&A, so that later on we can have a look, and she will be able to answer those questions. But pending that, I just want to quickly launch a pool. So I want you to kind of answer this pool. You should be able to see the pool now. What do you consider most important to get into a cybersecurity career? Is it a certification, training, internship, mentorship? Yeah. So at least that will guide us to know what people are thinking in terms of diving into cybersecurity career. The next person that will be talking while we're going on with the pool is John Adewale Olatunde. John is a cybersecurity analyst with vast experience in information technology and cybersecurity through academic, hands-on, and professional experience. John is skilled in the use of security incident and event management SIEM, endpoint detection and response solutions, incident response, threat intelligence, and vulnerability assessment. So John will be talking about the skill set of a SOC analyst. If you want to become a SOC analyst, what are the skill sets that is required? And he's going to look into a case study for us as well. So let me have a look at that pool. Okay, so I think the pool, we've got training has got the highest votes, followed by mentorship. Then internship certification is the distance. So let me just share the results so everybody can see. So majority agree that training is quite key, if you want to move into cybersecurity, and follow closely by mentorship, then internship, then certification. Okay, cool, thanks for that. So without much ado, I'll just call on John to dive into its skill sets, and he's going to talk about case study as well. Welcome, John.
Yeah, thank you. Good day, everyone. My name is John, and I'll continue the presentation. Yeah, can you see my screen now? And can you hear me also?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see your screen.
Perfect. Yeah, so my name is John, and I'll talk about the day in the life of a SOC analyst in relationship to, from the point of view of a security incident which I was to involved with. So yeah, I'll talk about the required skill set of a SOC analyst. I'll talk about the SOC analyst career path. I also could talk about the case study of a crypto miner malware incident, and I was able to resolve it. Some of the tools that we used that aided us in the resolution of this, and some of the common challenges and solutions encountered by a SOC analyst. So the previous speaker has already spoken about the SOC and the constituents, so I'll skip most of those ones. Now, onto the required skill sets. Yeah, there are a lot of skill sets which are very useful to a SOC analyst, but I'll pick some and explain some. So the first one would be like fundamental computing skills. As a SOC analyst, you can't protect what you don't know. So your networking skills, your network is like the network is the backbone of any organization, of any IT infrastructure. So your knowledge of network is very, very important. You also have to have a very good understanding of protocols. There are the threads that are related to an FTP. To an FTP server is not the same threads that is applicable to SSH, or the same threads that is applicable when you have an HTTP server. So the knowledge of these protocols will help you as a SOC analyst in being able to identify and respond to threats. Also, system administration is a very, very important skill as a SOC analyst. You need to understand how this operating system works and how you troubleshoot them. the way you troubleshoot something on Windows is not the same thing, might not be applicable when you have to deal with the Linux environment or when you have to deal with the Mac OS. And also, attention to detail is very important as a SOC analyst. There are cases where what differentiates a legitimate application or a legitimate binary from a malicious one can be something as simple as a letter. Let's say you have a malicious file named updater, and you have a legitimate app named updates.exe. You being able to differentiate between updater and updates to see what is wrong will really go a long way. At times, you can also have legitimate binaries, say CMD, but what would differentiate it to be the file paths where it's running from? You can't have CMD running from the download folder or running from a temp folder. So you've been able to pay attention to those details and some of the skills that will help as a SOC analyst. Also, the knowledge of tools such as your SIEM. Your SIEM is your security information and event management. You need to understand how the SIEM works. You need to understand that your EDR is your endpoint detection and response tools. You also have to understand how the intrusion detection system and the intrusion prevention system works. You need to understand how the firewall works. The firewall is what is responsible for what is allowed and what is restricted as it relates to the network. Then you also have to understand how the ticketing solution works. The ticketing solution is what you use for case management, as well as escalation of incidents. Also, I believe research is a very, very important skill for a SOC analyst. The cybersecurity trend keeps evolving, so you need to be up to date with what is happening as it relates to new and emerging threats. The SOC also exists as a team, and you need to collaborate with other teams within an organization. So collaboration is very, very important. Then I believe the communication and documentation also. Communication, since the SOC is a team, you have several constituents of a SOC. You need to communicate with other SOC members about your findings and what you've been able to do. So communication is very important in this regard. Also, documentation. Yeah, you need to document everything you do, the investigation you've been able to carry out so far, the steps you've taken in cases where you have to resolve an incident. You need to be able to document all that. And reverse engineering has to do with you being able to understand how an attack was carried out. You need to be able to understand what are the things involved, if there are applications that were used, if there were other machines that were involved in the course of the attack. So the reverse engineering skill is an important skill for a SOC analyst. So the SOC analyst career path, depending on the SOC and the way it's structured, you usually have your tier 1 analyst. The tier 1 analysts are the junior analysts, which are usually responsible for alert triage. They are the first to come across an alert and able to separate which one needs to be investigated. So in a case where you'll be able to investigate and see that yes, this attack is an high severity attack, you escalate it to a tier 2 analyst. Now, tier 2 analysts are usually classified as your cybersecurity incident handler. They are responsible for further investigation and mitigating of these alerts. Why tier 3 are usually considered to be threat hunters. Their own duty is to ensure that yes, your SOC is able to detect new and emerging threats, and it's also able to cater for. Their own duty is usually to test what you have and ensure it's able to detect new and emerging threats, as well as other threats which are not being detected previously. While your SOC manager is responsible for management of the team as well as communication with the organization. This will be in form of communication with the chief information security officers, among others. So I'll talk about the case study of the crypto miner malware, which I was involved with. I worked previously as a cybersecurity analyst in a security operations center in Abuja. And one of the cases which we had was one of our clients had a crypto miner malware, which was affecting them. They had about 12 servers which they couldn't use as a result of high CPU usage, which was caused by a crypto mining malware. The pictures I have there are just for representation. They are not from the actual dashboard. So what we first noticed was an alert was generated on the security tool. And from the alert, we could see that there was considerable usage of the computer resources, which was the memory and the CPU. So from that, we carried out an alert triage to be able to find out that, yes, this thing is truly happening. And it's an alert of high severity. So a case was created on the ticketing system, and the case was escalated to a SOC, to a tier 2 analyst, which is an incident handler. Now, after doing this, we proceeded to carry out investigation, to carry out incident response on the client's infrastructure. Now, to do your incident response, to carry out an incident response, the incident response process usually contains of 4 processes. You need to identify what you need to carry out a preparation stage with the client. Then you investigate, you eradicate, and at the end of the day, you have your post incident stage. So some of the tools they were able to use for this was auto runs in investigating what was happening. Auto runs is a SIS internal tool that gives you an idea of what is happening on your machine. It tells you the scheduled tags, the processes that are running, and some other. It gives you a lot of intelligence when it comes to investigating, because in this case, we had to carry out live analysis of what was happening on those machines. Another tool that was of help was TCP view. A TCP view is something like NetStats but in GUI format. It shows you the processes that is running on your machines. It shows you the communication between those processes, the IP addresses they are trying to contact. And from there, we could figure out the malicious process and the IP, the command and control center, which is just trying to communicate with. Why process monitor? Process monitors allows you to, it gives you a deeper understanding of processes and things that processes are doing. This involves the registry edits made by keys. It can also involve the files which these processes were able to create and other intelligence. Why Process Explorer? Process Explorer is more like an advanced version of your task scheduler. With this, we're able to see the processes, the child processes and parent processes. So with the malware, it had other child processes which it was using. And this was one of the tools we were able to identify all that. And one other tool that was of help was the endpoint detection and response. So with this, it was able to, the endpoint detection and response was able to identify the malicious file as well as the relationship between these files and other the community, the network. Yeah, okay. DDR is responsible for endpoint detection and response. So with this, was able to find out the malicious file as well as the links between this file and other components on the machines, which includes the endpoint, the registry, as well as other things that this malware was capable of doing. So after this, we documented all the steps. We documented the steps which are the investigation, how we're able to find out the malicious activities and what we have done so far to resolve this. And then we created a report based on what we've documented and the actions we've taken to resolve this, which the report was sent to the clients. We had a meeting with them and they implemented the actions that they needed to. And at the end of the day, the case was closed and we still continue monitoring their infrastructure for the occurrence of, we kept on monitoring their organization for new and emerging threats. So what are the common challenges and solutions? So common challenges faced by SOC analysts and solutions to these challenges. We have the challenge of alert fatigue. Alert fatigue occurs when you have like a considerable amount of alert and you can't really differentiate between which one is low severity or which one is high severity. So in this case, you tend to get overwhelmed by this attack, and at times you tend to lose critical attacks. So one of the solutions to this is to have a security platform that is able to differentiate between a low severity and high severity alert. This is the job of a SOC, of a tier 1 analyst. And also one of the things you can do to reduce alert fatigue is the use of user and entity behavior analytics. So what this does is from the type of alert you have, you'll be able to detect which one is out of place. Let's say you have a system, and in your workplace, the login is, you are only allowed to log in from 8 to 6, and there's a login that is noticed from, let's say, 10 p.m. So that's something, that's a behavior that is not normal. So your EUBA system will be able to generate an alert for you based on this. Then another thing is security tool overload. Security tool overload occurs when you have a lot of tools to monitor. In a case where you have to monitor your SIM, where you have to monitor your EDR, where you have to monitor your firewall, it's not really effective to work that way. So one of the things to do, one of the best ways to go about resolving this is to have a centralized platform. That is, you plug your SIM. If your SIM is your centralized platform, your SIM should be able to digest logs from other tools and appliances you have. So your SIM should be able to receive logs from, say, your antivirus, your EDR, your firewall, as well as other security appliances that is being used in the organization. And one other thing that is usually faced by a SOC analyst is stress and burnout. A cybersecurity field is a very, very demanding one, and the role of a SOC analyst too is quite demanding. So if care is not taken, an analyst tends to burn out. So one of the ways you can always do this is ensure you have a work-life balance. And ideally, the SOC analyst, there should also be someone else that will be able to step in your role in a case where you're unable to work. So in summary, a SOC analyst monitors an organization infrastructure. They detect and they're able to respond to security incidents with the aim of improving an organization's security posture. We have several roles and tiers of a SOC analyst, and fundamental computing skills are very important. Also, an analyst has to be up to date with current threats as regarding the cybersecurity landscape, and use of centralized monitoring and alerting tools which integrate with other platforms are very, very important in the SOC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. That was a brilliant presentation, most especially talking about the skill sets. And I found that case study of the crypto miner quite interesting. And, you know, he also touched on the challenges of SOC and solution. In those days when I started as a security operation center analyst, as a security operations analyst, normally suffer from fatigue. You're right. That's quite and stress and burnout. Especially when you have a serious incident that you have to deal with. Sometimes you have to stay over in the office, stay for a couple of days, just trying to dig into logs and try to find out what has happened, trace back, and that can result into fatigue and stress and burnout. Yeah, thanks. That's quite interesting one. So I could see someone just drop in. It's just said I really appreciate the instant pool with instant results. He would love to learn more. That's Joseph. Thanks for that, Joseph. I think the next person that will bring on board now, and he's going to be the last speaker. And his name is James Ajayi-Obe. James Ajayi-Obe, it's a security engineer, at the same time a security architect. He's got several experience, close to 7 to 8 years in security operations, moving to security engineering role. He's based in UK here. He's got CISSP, Azure Solution Architect, Certified Ethical Worker, CyberArk Certified. So basically, James will be talking about a privilege escalation. So James will be talking about privilege escalation. So I'll just hand over to James now.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much, Mr. Remy, for bringing me on board. My name is James, and I'm a security engineer through security architect, working within the industry for the past several years. I've spanned across various roles, traditionally from traditional IT operation, moving to security, and working the ranks up to where I am today. Yeah, so thanks for again listening out. I'll just be apologies, I won't be able to perhaps maybe show my video, maybe make any formal presentation. It's pretty much of a short notice. Yeah, today I'll be just pretty much maybe just having a brief discussion about, or perhaps maybe a brief walkthrough around privilege escalation attack. As a traditional SOC analyst, the previous speaker has actually mentioned quite very enormous various skill set required, steps and approaches to what a day in a SOC analyst would normally be like. And just a brief recap, normally what you do as soon as you get to the office every day as an analyst is you want to check through your emails, your security alerts, emails, check if there's been any incidents generated in the past few hours that you've been away. You want to track them via your SIM tool on the dashboard. The security engineers will have actually made a lot of configurations, a lot of use cases on the SIM tool dashboard to kind of track various attack vectors or various likelihood of security events that could actually be generated. And you will just want to walk through your day, identify, check through the alerts and see which of them are pretty much prevalent or making looking very suspicious to you, and then you just pick it up and you start triaging, deep diving into the nitty-gritty as to what's actually happened on that particular incident. So just moving forward majorly, perhaps maybe ideally maybe one of the incidents you picked up is a privilege escalation. Privilege escalation simply could actually happen in any form, and by privilege escalation, what the attacker is looking to do is to kind of either make use of an existing attack weak point within your organization that's got a very weak password, or maybe a weak protocols, or maybe misconfigurations around your systems, and try to get into the organization through that and do a lot of privilege escalation and get into the critical assets of the organization. So it could start in form of perhaps maybe a phishing email, or maybe a weak password from a user. Say for instance, taking for an example, if a phishing email is being sent to a user, that's you have to reset your password. This email is coming from the IT, and from the email body, you kind of, as a non-experienced member of staff within the wider organization, not someone within security has got much around security experience, you saw the email came in, and you said, okay, this is from your IT saying, okay, kindly update your password, or maybe click on this link so that at least you'll be able to update our system. We've had changes over the weekend, and we need you to, as a user, to perform these tasks. And a user that is pretty much very naive, doesn't know what is happening, the link embedded at the back of the link is then redirecting you to some malicious command and control external server, and you just click on the email, hoping that the email will take you to a position where you need to kind of perform the action that your IT people is actually asked you to do. But unknowingly to you, the email is actually maliciously downloaded a process running on the back end, on the background as part of your standard operations, and is installed some kind of maybe some malwares, maybe a Trojan, and that particular Trojan is then communicating a C2C to an attacker's environment, where they need to follow the attack queue chain that the previous user is actually mentioned about. So that program is now being installed on your PC, on your computer. Pretty much maybe it managed to get through because as part of the security controls, the EDR security controls on your endpoint, you pretty much allowing any programs to kind of run without any security checks as to the legitimacy of the source of the program running, or perhaps maybe there isn't any EDR2 analyzing the program that needs to run and checking various links or where it's actually communicating to. There isn't any IDS or IPS that is able to identify malicious link. And unfortunately for the organization, for the user felt, okay, I've managed to do what the IT is mentioned to do. Okay, the link redirected me to something that looks in a way maybe relatively to what the user is used to within the IT, and the user got landed on that page and realized, okay, there isn't nothing much for me to do on this page, and just close that particular browser. But in addition to that, the malware is already been downloaded. The privilege escalation is already started. The malware started communicating with the command and control of the attacker, and the attacker is gotten access to the system. So then pretty much perhaps this particular user is one of the users that has got elevated privileges within the organization, maybe one of the admins to a particular system, a particular critical systems. Pretty much maybe take, for instance, a database administrator that we know they would have higher privileges to much more critical systems like the database servers, or maybe running a couple of payment payroll processing systems. And the user then manages to kind of initially establish his presence within the organization, using the users, the privileges, initial privileges is managed to get, using it to do as the initial launch, the reconnaissance, the exploitation phases into the environment. And the user manages to then, kind of navigate its way through to understand which of the servers within the IP is the adversary this able to link up to maybe a database server. And the user manages to kind of maybe recreate, as part of the process, another user account within the organization, using the initial privileges is managed to establish, and trying to kind of evade the controls that you've got in place, trying to kind of stay out of visibility from your SIM tool, so that at least no one is actually taking notice of exactly what's happening. And miraculously, as things kind of moves on, so the standard account that the user initially manages to log in is then, with the privilege escalation processes, is managed to grabs the admin account, admin credentials of this IT person, and then doing maybe some keyloggers to kind of capture some of the keystrokes of the password of the user. If you've got a very weak security controls, nothing is actually taking you through elevated accounts, maybe doing MFA or maybe SSO, just validating your session as part of as you're walking through, then pretty much things will move slowly and easily for the attacker. And at this stage, the attacker is gotten access to the admin account that the user would then need to log into the database server. The password is been exposed through the keylogger, and then the attacker is now starting to kind of perform much more advanced activity, because of course it's recreated a new user ID. You're not pretty much having much visibility as part of your SIM tool. The SIM tool should ideally, if configured properly, should be able to pick up that this user account is fresh, it's newly been created, and it needs to be kind of checked. But unfortunately, perhaps maybe that incident came through, and it probably you felt okay, follows our naming convention. It is pretty much maybe identical to our GML, maybe a new user joiners creation at that time, and you kind of, okay, this is a false positive, I just ignore. And the user, the new account stays in the environment for maybe 3 months before moving forward to the next phase, performing much more critical activity. So in the process, then the account tries to understand the normal behavior of this IT person when the user logs in, when it logs off, so that he understands when the period he needs to perform the attack, or the time frame he needs to do what he needs to do. He then elevated to a database server and at that stage is now getting hold of critical asset within the organization. And as soon as it manages to elevate to the database server within the same period that the IT user would normally do his work, because it's a different account, you would normally it wouldn't disrupt the normal day-to-day operation of the traditional IT person, and is already established a kind of maybe remote session backend into the systems, understood that the security controls within the database server is pretty much porous, is managed to maybe generate some, maybe any VPN or maybe any zero-day trust or some kind of maybe activities within the environment, and is now able to get hold of the database server. As soon as is able to get hold of database server, it then now logs in with the new user as if it was the person, the new user IT that's actually joined with privilege account and trying to perform or maybe kind of pretend as if is the person, and start making changes to your database server, maybe modifying rows and columns, making changes to sorry, apologies. Apologies about that. My son just came in just to ask something. So, and as I was saying, the user is managed to kind of gain access to the database server, start making changes into the payment systems, and before you actually notice that something malicious is actually happening, the user has already established his presence, fully launched the attack and started making the changes, maybe modifying the bank accounts or the or username and password, or perhaps maybe creating additional stuff that it would be then performing man in the middle attack, and changing stuff, modifying stuff on the database, or maybe changing values where a user is meant to be maybe to be paid maybe $20 is added additional zero at the back of it, and things are and added additional zero at the back of it, and the exploit is completed successfully. At that stage, all of the things that's been successfully done, you weren't aware about that particular incident. The customer that was meant to get the payment now replied that he hasn't managed to get the payment, and that was when you started, notifying or understanding that an attack is actually up. So that's pretty much one simple scenario of how a privilege escalation normally works. It could start off from maybe a phishing email, through a malicious link, a malware has been downloaded, the command and control session has been established with the adversary at the back end, and from the standard account, the user has managed to elevate his privilege to much more advanced accounts, and is able to kind of recreate a new user ID that's trying to evade your security controls, knowing fully well about the time you normally check your event controls, the clipping level, the clipping level that the other user mentioned about, in terms of when you start experiencing certain threshold, moving beyond your normal threshold in terms of what you normally monitor on a day-to-day basis. So most of all those things, the user has fully understood your day-to-day process, and is trying to now carve or maybe craft the attack just to represent the normal way a standard user would normally behave or would normally.
James, I think we lost you. We can't hear you anymore. Okay, probably lost connection, but yeah. Can anyone else hear from the panelists? Can you hear James?
No, I can hear you, but he's off.
All right, so I thought it was me. So All right, that's fine.
Apologies, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine,
So
James. Yeah, we can.
okay, that's
quickly round up.
about it majorly. Just before I go, I'll just give maybe one or maybe list 5 examples of exploitation, credential exploitation within privilege escalation. So one of them is password exposure. Another one is the password guessing, shoulder surfing, dictionary attack, rainbow table attacks, false attack, security questions, pass the hash. Much this is one of the things that most of the pen tests normally use to kind of check the weaknesses around the systems, and credential surfing. So most of all those things are pretty much prevailing ways that standard attacker would normally use to get into the environment. So I think that's pretty much it from me. I'm not so sure. Just let me know if there's any question. I'll be able to answer.
All right, thank you so much, James. Talking extensively on privilege escalation. So just to break it down in a layman's language, you look at it this way. Look at users as just ordinary guests in hotel, but they have their room. So all the access they've got is just their room and the key that they use to enter their room. The pass that they use to enter their room. An attacker, when it comes, was able to grab one of those keys. That would just give him access to that particular room, maybe room 103 or room 405. But imagine, the cleaners, the room service, they are call them the admin. They have the master key that they use to enter every room in the hotel. If they want to clean, they just use that key. So imagine if an attacker is able to obviously get hold of that key. That means he has got access to so many rooms and will be able to do more damage. So that's just simply what privilege escalation is. And that's what, the attackers are always interested in, escalating their privilege, having admin rights so that they can do more. So thanks a lot, James. So I've got one more kind of before that. I'm not sure some people have started asking questions, and the panelists have been answering them. But if you have more questions, you can bring them on. But let me just launch another pool. So this time around, you just want to understand which aspect of cybersecurity that you are interested in. We've got the technical aspect, we've got the non-technical aspect. The technical aspect is what we are discussing today. We're looking at security operations centers, security engineering, those are, security architect, those are, but we still have some non-technical one like, governance, risk, and compliance as well. That people that are not really so technical might want to look into that area as well. So let's see what you think and which area you feel you are interested in. So while the poll is going on, let me have a quick look at the questions. I think all the questions have been answered. Bernard asked about what some of the most reliable SIM tools available, and John has answered that. If you want to see the answer, you can just have a look at the question and answer section. And Ikechukwu wanted to know whether we're going to share the slide used today. Yeah, definitely we'll do that. So if there's any other question from any other person, you can just, I think, can any of the panelists pick this? He said, what advice will you give to someone just starting out as a SOC analyst? You want to give it a go? That's a question from Jeremiah. And that's a good question. Anyone, you can answer it live rather than type it. Want to give it a go? Answer that. Do you want to answer that question? While James is typing the answer, but Asanat, do you want to answer it live? You can unmute yourself and answer that. Okay, she's not there.
Maybe I'll just give an advice or try to answer that, even though SOC is not really my my area of specialty. I think one of the important things to do is to get on the job experience. So the unique thing about a position like a SOC is that there are tools that you will not have access to except you're in an enterprise environment. So in the Q&A, John had mentioned, and even Hassanat had mentioned some tools. Majority of the tools they mentioned are enterprise tools. A few may have trial period, but it's usually not enough for you to gain like in-depth skills. So look for opportunities to get that experience. And what opportunities are there? Things like internships. There may be project teams that are working on something, and you may be lucky enough to be involved. Those kind of opportunities are there. Even entry-level jobs. But the issue again, it may not be too available. But what I'm saying is that try to actively look for opportunities, because if you do not have access to those enterprise tools, it reduces your chances of getting those jobs, except where fully entry-level people are being recruited. So that's why, so like internships and project teams are usually opportunities that can be leveraged.
All right, thanks, Samaila. John, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to buttress on what Samaila said, like I believe volunteering and internship is also one of the ways you can easily get into that you can easily gain entry into a cybersecurity operations role. Most of those tools, as I said, also there are a lot of tools that are still out there which you will not really know until you enter an enterprise environment. And you volunteering or you starting from an internship role is a very, very good way to begin a career path. And also doing certifications, like basic certifications that talks about introduction to security operations too, is very, very important, as it shows you have an understanding of all these tools and how it works. So something like doing courses on CompTIA Security Plus, CH and Co, they're also very, very good ways to start. And you starting as an intern or other entry-level roles too is a very, very good avenue to start a SOC career.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. So I think James will have answered online directly.
Yes.
He typed the answer there. So
in addition to that as well, there are a lot of free training that can also guide you on the YouTube. Free training from Microsoft, from various vendors, Qualys, pretty much studying you in terms of what to expect when a particular security incident comes in place and how to approach it. So that would also that normally also helps. And also being inquisitive, wanting to understand the root cause of things, or maybe what's happening whenever you see anything suspicious within the network, within the environment, wanting to understand exactly what's happening, until you're able to establish whether it's a true false or a false positive. That would also normally help. And lastly, always have a mentor that can as well steady you into the job, or that can give you directions in terms of pathways you need to go through, or what next stage you need to kind of engage with, whether the right certification type, or whether the right training that you need to get into, whether the right group that would be helpful for you to kind of gain additional experience as well. Always very helpful.
Perfect. Excellent. Thanks for that. They're quite useful tips. So let's quickly end the pool. And I'm going to share results. Looks like you can see that majority are interested in technical, which is not surprising, because when we talk about SOC, looking at the technical aspect of it, and I believe that those that register for the webinar, they definitely must be interested in the technical aspect. But that notwithstanding, we still have a few people that are interested in the non-technical aspects. We're still going to have another webinar for those that are interested in a day in the life of a GRC analyst. So be on the lookout. We'll share that. So let me just stop sharing. Then before we leave, let me quickly share some of the upcoming activities for LINSEC. When John was answering that question regarding how do you want to start, he made mention of certification, and I think James also mentioned something like that. That's one thing you need to, if you want to validate your experience, or your knowledge, you need to kind of do a certification to just show that, okay, I'm knowledgeable in this and that. I'm sure you can see my screen. We've got a certified ethical hacking training coming up. If you can plan to join, for those that might be interested, that's starting next week, Saturday. If you are interested to register, you just email training@linsec.com. And for anybody that have attended today's webinar, we are giving 15% discounts for you, anybody that's attended it. But we're still going to email the details anyway. But just send the emails to training and specify that you have attended today's webinar. Then we'll be able to apply a 15% discount for you. That's starting the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, full day. And it's online structure-led training. After the training, you do your certification exam and you become a certified ethical hacker. So that's one other thing I want to.
There are some questions. I'm trying to answer some.
Okay.
But I've answered two. There are still two more. So somebody asked, how do you really manage SOC fatigue? The speaker earlier spoke about managing work-life balance, but how do you manage being able to trash through a lot of logs and not get tired?
So want to pick that?
I'll pick that one. Now, these security tools, like you were saying, they really help you in managing SOC fatigue. Because AlienBot makes use of the cyber queue chain where you have about 4 or 5 stages of alerts. So depending on the stages and from the way from the queue chain, you'll be able to identify which one is more critical that you really need to investigate and which one is of lower severity. So your security platform tool, we generally have like a grading of the alerts based on the severity level. So with that, you don't necessarily have to go through all the alerts. You can have a threshold. Okay, we are monitoring for in a system which uses like a 5-grade system for severity. We are monitoring from say 3 to 5. 1 and 2 will not really place much importance on this. So those are some of the ways you can manage alert fatigue.
Yeah, thank you. Any other question from anyone? Okay, I think we've.
Someone asked about internship opportunities. I already answered in the question, but in the question and answer area, I just said that they should connect with people in the industry because a lot of times these roles are not usually advertised. In fact, the team may be small, so they may not be looking for an intern, but because you are reaching out to them, they may just say, okay, do you know what, we'll have you on board for 3 months or 6 months and see how it goes. So it's good to talk with people in the industry, let them know you're looking for such opportunities. And for many people who are in the industry already share these opportunities. So you have to be connected with them so that you can see what they are posting online and so you can key into such opportunities. We have to, again, like I said, let people know that you are open to such opportunities. And in the meantime, you can start learning the necessary skills so that when they see your CV or when you reach out, you're already telling them that you started working on this career path and these are the things you've learned so far, meaning that you are able to contribute to the team, not just coming there to learn and go.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Then there's one more question, just came in now. Some people say SOC analysis is boring because you just keep dealing mostly with the same false alerts. Is that true? Maybe John can take it away. I can just say something even without John coming in. Well, the issue with false alerts is based on how you fine-tune your rules. So over time, you'll be based on the kind of alerts coming in, based on even the false policies that you're talking about. You would fine-tune the rules you're using to create the alert so that you reduce the likelihood of getting those false positives. So it's not as if you just create your rules and set the criteria for the alert on January 1st and you leave it like that forever. No, you are going to be regularly checking and improving and modifying it so that it's as accurate as can be. All right, it may not be possible to have 100% accuracy, but if you're able to have like a 99% accuracy or 95% accuracy, that reduces, the amount of false positives you get, and it means you will not be stressing out your SOC people. And then regarding boring, it depends on you as a person, because you have to look at what interests you. The people that like the whole activity of looking for an intruder, oh, this is what the intruder was, this is what the intruder has done. Finding out those things is interesting to them. People that like threat hunting or malware analysis or incident response or digital forensics, they will enjoy these things. So it's based on you as a person. You can't generally say a role is boring because people have different preferences. So I don't agree with that perception. I don't know if any other speaker wants to add anything on that.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I think someone said if you can possibly get a link to some of your LinkedIn profile, so that they can connect with you, or you can put that in the chats, just put.
Okay, yeah. So yes, all the panelists, please put your LinkedIn profile in the chat.
Yeah. So I'll just type my name. Just search my name. You see me there. I don't think we are so many bearing Remy Alpha. And you see, I think, just you see, from the title, you'll be able to know, my job title, yeah. So is that?
Hello? I would also like to, in respect to the question about giving advice to someone starting out. Based on my experience, I think you need to actually roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. You need to practice. When you watch these tutorials, when you read, you also need to practice. There are several threat hunting platforms that you can go to, and they expose you to different trainings and real life like scenarios on how to go about these things. So that's what I would like to advise. You need to actually roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. That's a very good way to actually to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Asana. That's a very, very good one. And on that note, we're ending, because practice, that's quite important. You can also create your own virtual lab where you can try your hands on so many things. So yeah.
I just like to also add to that, to the request around the boring around the SOC analyst. I think collaboration is also very key. Discussing your challenges, pretty much maybe some of the incidents you've managed to resolve, how you do it, and maybe doing some kind of maybe peer review. That always kind of helps for you to know what best, or how best you can actually be able to attack the same incidents in a different way, or perhaps maybe what other things you can actually improve. On all of those things will help you to quickly, instantly knock off false positive as opposed to true positive, and it would help you to instantly get away with it. For me personally, as an experience, as soon as I manage to get an incident and I manage to resolve it end to end, it gives that kind of satisfaction, because being inquisitive, making sure makes you to want to deep dive for you to establish and for you to be able to nail the particular incidents to resolution right from the very first time you pick it up, wanting to know how it normally ends, and we'll be able to normally get you through to the end. And that always gives satisfaction, for you to be able to stay ensure that the organization stays secure, and wherever there are ways or places of improvement, or maybe to fine tuning, all of those things always normally help you to kind of know what needs to be done, and gives you more confidence on the job, and be able to kind of attack newer incidents that comes in and be able to easily, instantly discard them and be able to categorize them appropriately.
All right, cool. Thanks. So I think the last question, because we're going to round up now, from Ikechukwu was that what's the advice for someone starting up in non-technical roles like IT governance compliance? It is my career is tilting towards this, and I need some guide on this. So don't worry, Ikechukwu, we are going to have a similar, exactly the same with this, a day in the life of SOC analyst. That's going to be a day in the life of a GRC analyst, and we're going to bring on board some GRC specialists, so they'll be able to advise you. So just watch out for this. We'll email it to whoever has attended today to attend if you're interested. And also you can follow us on our social media handle, LinkedIn, LinkedIn on LinkedIn, follow our Twitter accounts, Instagram, then you'll be able to be updated on our activities. So, but in the most time, we're definitely going to have that. So I need to thank all our panelists today for sharing their experience and their knowledge. Asanat, John, James, and also Samaila acting as a supporting striker. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today. And also for all the attendees, thank you. And I hope you've all benefited one thing or the other from this event. Thank you all, and we'll call it a day now.
Yes, bye.